Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. This is your girl, yes, royalty princess. That's what I call myself. I can do it because it's from my perspective. Okay. So, welcome to the show, everybody. We're live again on Facebook. And I also just want to let you know my special co host, of course, is Dr. Binion right there on the side. And we have a very special guest. The former mayor of Broadview, Sherman Jones, is in the building. Give it up for him. Got the little clock. But we're going to be talking about various things, Sherman, if you guys don't know him, is a very wise man. I mean, when I say that, he's been around, he's been mayor. He's going to talk about, well, since 2000 and what?
2009 through 2017.
Wow. So we're going to be talking about a lot of different things, ways to get money. If you want to know how to get a gambling machine, all that good stuff. Dr. Bean's going to be bringing some. Dr. Bean, what are you going to be bringing to the table tonight?
Well, I'm going to share with you the information about HB 4130, which is dealing with the property taxes,
Okay.
as well as SB 508. I must apologize. I had the rental assistance information, but I do know even if you call the township of even Country Club Hills, they
Mhm.
now have mortgage assistance.
Wow.
Yeah, so they're helping you with that. They're still helping you with your lights, your gas, so and even with your phone bills.
Okay.
So
Did we
that
ever get in touch with Senator Harmon to speak on that bill or?
he's still in session. They still in veto session. They won't be
Okay.
out for another 2 days. And
Okay.
so what they can do is call CETA. So they just they can Google it, call CETA, and they'll tell them all of the programs that are
Okay.
out here in
Well, let's
Kansas.
give people what we were talking about so they'll understand where we're coming from. So last week, if you did not join us, we were talking about the bill that's coming out and Dr. Binion, because who she is, just in case you don't know who Dr. Binion is, she is the president of the West Side Coalition for the city of Chicago, which she is involved heavily with state laws as well as the Senate laws and all that good stuff. And she just have a wealth of connection. So we was talking about this bill that and explain about the bill. So
Well, I brought it because I wanted to make sure that everybody understands the wording of it because we did a press release when we did it's SB 508 allows taxing districts to collect future revenue that never truly existed because the original assessments were erroneous while shifting the tax burden onto all taxpayers to make up for government assessment mistakes, even unto the taxpayers who deserve to be refunded. SB 508 is a backdoor way that reinvents the much despised balloon levying practices of the past. It is not only poorly written, but also unconstitutional and violates a taxpayer's due process because taxpayers receiving justified property tax refunds will be forced to repay their refunds along with additional burdens shift to everyone else.
now again, we're educating you. Now a lot of
That's
people
it.
don't know this bill even exists, and this is the bill that they're fighting for right now. So, Mr. Jones, in your experience as the mayor, what would have taken place when you were doing, you know, your job?
Well, what she's referring to is a state law. Where I'm at, we're in a local municipality, so and we're not home rule in Broadview, so you're bound by the state laws. So whatever the state decides or whatever they pass must be upheld by the local laws. The only thing that you can do once the laws are passed is try to make sure that they're enforced properly. But if it's a benefit, I mean, a House bill or a Senate bill, either way, once it passes and it makes law at the state level, yeah, non-home rule municipalities must abide by it. So your hands are kind of tied, which is why you need to have a real good relationship with your local state senator, your local state rep, and all of those people that represent you at the state level. Your local mayors won't have a voice in this particular situation. That bill right there is at the state level, which is what they're talking about today, right now.
Really
Right.
interesting. So, give me a little, give the people a little history of you, Mayor Jones, about how you started, how you got in politics.
How I got in politics. Actually, I didn't want to get in politics. I had been working out of Connecticut for a couple of years. I'm homegrown out of Proviso Township. I've been here since 1962, and came home because my grandma was sick. Ran into a friend of mine. He was telling me that the village was going down, in different directions. We rode around town. It looked really bad. So went to a couple of meetings, listened to some disgruntled residents, and actually solicited other people to run. Ultimately, I ended up running for trustee in 2007, was elected trustee, and then ran for mayor 2009. Because of the financial situation in the village of Broadview, the lack of services for the residents, and the lack of a voice at Village Hall. And unfortunately, we're almost back to that point again today, but that's a whole nother conversation. But that's how I got involved. Just came back home, seeing a lot of the senior citizens and people that I'd known growing up. Everybody's up in arms. They had laid off a quarter of the police department. They had laid off a quarter of the fire department.
Wait a
And
minute, that look like something's happening today.
well, they're not laying off anybody today. The situation is quite a bit different.
Okay.
Back in 2006, the village was deeply in the red. They were deeply in the red due to poor spending habits and negligent management of the money. Ultimately, they had about a $5.5 million deficit, and it was still going in the wrong direction.
Mm.
The decision was made by the village board at that time to do these layoffs. They disbanded the public works department entirely, um, tried to bring those guys back on individual contracts at a lower rate just to try to keep the streets clean. At one point in time, the mayor and the public works director were the guys that were plowing the snow. The police department was reduced by a quarter, and so was the fire department. As a result of that, we lost major contracts with the major hospitals. We lost probably about $1 million in contracts with
Wow.
Hines, Loyola, and Madden's for fire services. Our ISO rating went down, and taxes went up. And so if it, what the ISO rating does is it allows you, a resident with a in a neighborhood with a good ISO rating, your insurance rate is much better. If the ISO rating is poor, your insurance rate is high, and the reason is because public safety is not there, and you are at a greater risk. So the insurance companies charge a higher rate because of that. Ultimately, when we got in office, we had to correct a lot of these things, and it took a little while, but we got out of the red, got into the black, brought all the policemen back, all the firemen back without borrowing a dime, got out of debt. And when I left office with about a $6 million surplus. So,
So how are we
yeah.
looking now?
Uh, well, good and bad. We're above water. We still have funds. We still have money. The village, and I will say this: it's probably not based on the local management. It's based on the fact that they got bailed out by COVID relief. COVID
Mm.
relief fixed a lot of problems for a lot of municipalities, and is masking deficiencies in different locations. So if not for COVID, we would be in the negative. If not for the COVID relief, we'll be in the negative. Now, once that money runs out and the COVID relief stops, if the current spending trends continue and the current policies continue, we will ultimately be in the red going down the road in the future. Um, but for right now, we're stabilized. We're not in danger of going bankrupt or anything like that, and we do have money in the bank. So, and I'm not necessarily in the office, so I don't have my finger directly on the exact numbers. I just know where we are, just based on historical data and what's been published on how much money came into the village, and what was published with our most recent audits. So,
Well, I notice a lot of things going up, but I don't see per se businesses moving in as much as was told. But a lot of buildings are being built.
well, there are businesses that are moving in, and some are moving around, moving from one location to another
Mm.
location in town. The senior citizen home that we started this process back in 2011.
And this was
Um,
under your leadership.
Absolutely. The location where the senior citizen is built, and actually the design of the current building, was already done back in 2011, 2012. And the only reason that it did not go forward back then was because the leadership at the state level changed. When Governor Rauner took office, all the funding stopped. They couldn't come up with a budget,
Mm.
and it was a problem for a lot of different things, and it really hurt minority communities, deprived communities or marginal communities that really needed the assistance from the state and from the federal government. When our state government couldn't get together, it put a huge burden on your local politicians and locally elected officials. That being said, that project got held up at the state level when Governor Pritzker took office. He went back to trying to help those that need the help, and I thank Governor Pritzker for that. The money was released, put back into the budget, and ultimately the project went forward, and it's almost complete now. They're looking for occupancy by early next year, I do believe. They were shooting for before the end of the year, but there are other businesses that are opening in town. You've got a spa that's opening up right now. Um, I don't know that it's necessarily a spa or whether it's a beauty salon, but they're calling it a spa, or they put other services in there in order to be able to say it's a spa. But they're going to be doing hair in there, they'll be doing nails and massages and what have you. At least that's what
Well, let's
I've
cut
been
to the
told.
meat and potatoes. Doesn't Senator Lightford have a club opening up or a banquet
Um,
hall?
Senator Lightford was the next one I was going to talk about. Senator Lightford came to me back when I was in office about the location that she is currently at right now. And what she originally, or her original plan, was to be a banquet hall that was going to house as many as 200 individuals in there. And the reason that it did not go forward on my term was because there was an absence of parking. It was a building that had been historically was a bookstore, and it was also a pet shop, and it had limited amount of parking. So what's going to happen now is uh, cars or anybody that's going to go to this particular establishment is going to have to park across the street a block away or in front of people's houses on the block, with the exception of the maybe dozen or 15 parks that are along the side of the building there. And yes, it's my understanding that she's probably applied for a liquor license. I don't know that that's been authorized by the current liquor commissioner, but originally we didn't have any liquor licenses in Broadview. So somehow mysteriously there may be a liquor license being issued, but I'm not aware of the details at this point.
Okay, so what else is going on? I mean, how did that occur? I mean, there's no parking. I mean, did they have to vote on it or what?
So the village has an ordinance for businesses, and matter of fact, it was a huge legal contention when we were having the strip club issue. When the strip club was trying to come to Broadview, one of the biggest issues that we raised on the village's side is that they didn't have enough parking. Um, this particular location has falls onto the same criteria. Um, what ultimately ended up happening was that the village board agreed to waive that and allow the owner of the location to utilize village-owned property for parking. So the village vacant lots, not vacant lots, but parking lots along Roosevelt Road are accounted for the parking purposes, and they actually waived the parking restriction for this particular location.
Wow. Now, is there any resources that we can have coming in to the village, like Dr. Beanie said, the different?
Oh, I'm sure that there are resources. Like I said, I've been out of the office for over 4 years now, so I do not know exactly what's on the table today. Um, that would be something that I would probably be talking to the state rep or the state senator available to the local residents. Most of the things that Dr. Bean is talking about are somewhat common knowledge in most of the communities, but it's not publicized enough. The
Mhm.
problem in our communities is that we do not know where the money is, or we do not know where the help is. And in many cases, we need to be led to the help. Minorities need to be given better direction and better assistance on how to get the help. Sometimes, and this is my experience, sometimes you have to bring the water to them. You have to bring the help to them because you can't get them to the help. Uh, Probably what I would probably do if I was in the mayor's office, and this is just a thought, I would probably get the particular individuals that are responsible for dispersing the funding and have them come out to the village. I would just have a special day, 3, 4
Well, we
hours.
don't. Well, basically, we ain't giving all of that. Dr. Pinion, what information do
I'm just
you
telling
have?
you.
No, I wanted to share that when you're dealing with this is a backdoor way that schools can also get more money
Okay.
and money that they don't deserve. And what is happening is there will be a domino effect because if you raise the property taxes and the people can't afford the taxes, they're gonna pull their kids out of the schools because they can't afford it. And even if you own a business, that means your business property taxes are going to go up. And this is they're working on putting in this into law statewide. So that means everybody. So now if you are renting, that means now your landlord, it, everything is going up. And so there is no due process. They've taken away the property tax extension limitations law. So now all of these things, now what can happen is they can replace that with a new bill. They need to take out the whole section 5. Whatever. And it was like I shared last week, it was put in just before 12 midnight. And so now is the time that either, like I shared, with all of these systems that are undergoing change, either they're going to be touched by the feelings of the infirmities or of their constituents, or they need to run new people in these offices.
Agreed.
Because you know what? It's not business as usual. I shared with you that there was a lady on the north side who has a $600,000 house, and I was paying more taxes than she was, and my house was $98,000. So now there is a major problem, and somebody, when they get tax breaks, somebody has to make up the difference, and they're making it up through those who are not who don't live in certain townships. They are getting the money, but they're getting it off the backs of the poor and the middle class because it's not affecting the rich. They can afford it. So we now have to call out legislators and let them know that it is not too late. Yes, and we've spoken with the governor, we've spoken with our state reps, we've spoken with our state senators. We know about Article 12, and then the Supreme Court here, the state Supreme Court decided that primary doesn't necessarily mean primary. So they are trying to put a new meaning to the word primary when the state law states that they are primarily supposed to be responsible for education. But then the state Supreme Court decided that primary didn't really mean primary. The primary could mean something else. So that means that because it doesn't mean that they don't really have to pay for education, but the state states that they're supposed to pay for education.
Well, we have a call on the line, and if you got your questions, you also can call in at 708-223-8953. So which button hit? Which one hit? Hey, caller, how you doing today?
Hello.
Hi. Great show.
Okay, what's your name, caller?
This is a tax doctor.
All right, tax doctor. All right, talk to me, tax doctor.
Well, I'm listening to Dr. Binion, and she's telling a good story. Folks, y'all better listen to her. We got folks in high places. Apparently, they truly don't care about the taxpayers. And we are the ones who are paying the bills. And a lot of folks don't know that back in 1969, 1970, when they had the Illinois Constitutional Convention, which is how we got in all this mess. And you got to understand, a lot of these folks that's in Springfield are young, they new, and they don't know what happened 53 years ago. But reassure you folks, there are some folks out here like Dr. Binion and the tax doctor and our coalition who want to wake everybody up. We are losing people in this state like crazy because property taxes is out of whack. And Dr. Binion and myself and some others, we had an opportunity to serve on the government task force for property tax relief. And instead of them giving us property tax relief, they gave us a property tax increase with SB 508, Section 5. So what we need folks to do, because we got 2 days left till the bill session is over, folks need to call Springfield and flood those phone calls with people saying to their state rep, we support SB 4130 that will repeal SB 508 Section 5. But the other key point that we want to drive home is the fact that we have 856 school districts that cost us $18 billion a year in property taxes. And we want to consolidate those 856 school districts down to 6 if we can. And we want one statewide budget like they have in Hawaii and California. So this is nothing new, because they knew back in 1969 that Hawaii had one statewide budget for education, but you had racism that reared its ugly head at the convention, because one of the delegates said, and when we think about Dunn Clark Mitch, she tried to get the convention to pass a motion where the state would have been responsible for 90% of the taxes for the schools, and all we had to pay was 10%. But one of the delegates rose up and said, what about the exceptional schools that need more money? And if you understand what that exceptional school meant, what about the wealthy white kids? That's where racism and classism came in. So Dunn Clark Mitch motion failed. And so for 53 years, we have been saddled with this thing called property taxes funding education, because the majority community did not want to use the income tax system to fund education, because if they were to use the income tax, we would have more equity in funding schools. And that's why we're in this mess they're in, because of racism.
Now, tax doctor, what about the gambling? What's your thought about that with the taxes?
Well, you got to understand, Las Vegas is the premier example of how you fund education with gambling money. In our state, if we begin to have casinos, that would bring in additional revenues. But you have to always have an educational fund that should come from the income tax, your sales tax, capital gains tax. It's a whole slew of ways to fund education.
That's right.
Where you can get it off the backs of homeowners.
Now, tax doctor, you guys said you had an organization and you were doing, what do you need the people to know?
Well, we need the people to know that in order to bring about a change in this state, we have to wake up and we got to become knowledgeable of what happened 53 years ago. 2028 would be the next time that we can have a constitutional convention.
That's right.
Springfield don't want to hear that. But opposition to Springfield, if you guys will work with the people to fix the property tax crisis, the pension crisis, then we ain't got to worry about having a constitutional convention. But what we do need is a constitutional amendment. And the 102nd General Assembly, they voted to put on the ballot for 2022 a constitutional amendment to codify union rights. And I'm a union man. And my position to my fellow brothers and sisters in the union, that ain't what we need right now. We need a pension reform by way of changing the language in Article 13, Section 5. Right now, you cannot diminish or impair the benefits of the retirees and the workers because of that section. And the Supreme Court in Illinois told Springfield, if you want to fix the pension crisis, do it the right way. Have a constitutional amendment and change the language. Then you can fix the pension crisis. But no, they don't want to do that.
And you know what, tax doctor, they don't
Yeah.
need the constitutional convention to fix the
No.
property tax problem. They can fix that at any time. They just created this problem, and now they need to address it because you might be able to afford your property taxes this year, but 5 to 10 years down the line, will you be able to afford your property taxes? Because that's what this bill is allowing.
Well, what folks have to understand, when you go to the county assessor and you get property tax relief, you go to the board of review, you get property tax relief. You go to the circuit court, you get property tax relief. You go to Springfield, because there's 4 ways to get property tax relief. Well, what SB 508 is saying in Section 5, that the taxing bodies can come back the following year and recoup all that money that you rightfully so deserve to get, because they already oversat your property. And that's the problem we have with SB 508 Section 5. These taxing bodies are not entitled to your money, and they think they are.
Well, Tax Doctor, I appreciate you calling in. Keep listening. We thank you so
Yes.
much. Any questions for the panel, for Tax Doctor?
Yes. I would like the panel to explain to your listeners why it is so important to stay engaged with what's going on in our community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We'll
Thank
have
you.
former Mayor Jones speak on that, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Staying engaged, it's critical. It's critical to the sustainability of your local communities, because when you, for lack of a better term, fall asleep at the wheel and the leadership is not held accountable to the masses that have elected them, then they're subject to doing things the way they want to do them, as opposed to the way the electorate wanted them to be done. And that's how a lot of our minority communities have gotten into the situation they are, because we just don't pay attention. We don't cry out enough. We don't complain enough. We don't make a big enough issue about problems. We just make an issue for the moment and we walk away. In other communities, it becomes a huge stage. It becomes national news. In certain communities in the city of Chicago, they get certain preferential treatment because the people are engaged with the politics of the city of Chicago. Other communities do not get it. They're not engaged, and their representation does not actively pursue things for them because of it, because they keep getting elected. And when you're not being represented properly, you need to really be engaged, because you need to put somebody else in there. So, yeah, engagement is a real key to getting services and getting represented properly and getting things that are necessary for the individuals.
But you know what I wanted to add? So many times we're not taught civics in school.
Mhm.
They took it out. So we don't think that we can even be a part of or ascertain it. We don't understand the process. We don't understand the rules of engagement. We don't even know how to enter in. When we get in, we don't know how to navigate once we're in. And so all of these things now, we've got to get civics back in the schools. These our babies who are our future presidents and future lawyers and future judges who can make proper decisions and touched by the feelings of their community and look like the people that they are judging. Until we get civics back in the schools, we're going to have major problems. It was all by design that our kids don't know the process. It's all by design. We've got generations who don't know the process. And so many times we'll vote somebody in and we want them to do all the work. We think once they're in, they're our savior. Everything is done. But there's a responsibility that we must do. We must vote. We must be engaged. We must go to the meetings when the different mayors and the different townships have meetings. A lot of times they don't even, depending on what they're doing, they won't even let you know the times and the dates of their meetings. They don't even let you know where to, when they were on Zoom, they kept saying, oh, you just go on the public channel. I said, well, where's the public channel at?
Right.
I remember going to try to go for the school board meetings.
Right.
They had a sign, and I'm going like, okay, well, this is the time and the date that this is supposed to be going on, but there's nothing happening here. And it's all by design to keep us in ignorance so that they can make laws, levies, and all of these things. And then they say, well, I let everybody know. Well, you know, I had a public meeting, but they really didn't. And so it has to be more transparency. And now we're trying to empower with all of these things that are happening, all of these things that God has uncovered and have allowed the people to see. There's systemic racism in housing. There's systemic racism in education. There are all of these systems that are worldwide that affect us in our daily lives and what we pay and how we act and what we do and what we're governed by. We have to make a decision. I'm going to get engaged. You know what? If I can get, and I can run all over the place to drop it like it's hot, have a good time and play bingo and all of this, I can take the time out to find out what's going on in my community. And it's not always just for us. It's for my daughter. What kind of world am I going to leave my daughter? What kind of world are we going to leave our kids with the way and the corruption? And not everybody is corrupt, but there is corruption. And so when you leave, it's like when you leave kids to themselves and there's no structure and there's no checks and balances, what do they normally do? They do what they want to do.
Well, nowadays, Dr. Bing, it's a lot of clicks too.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Well,
speaking on that. Go ahead.
There's a little bit more to it than that.
Right.
In the state of Illinois, there's a thing called the Sunshine Laws. The Sunshine Laws are not encompassing enough to require the elected officials to give a broad enough picture of when the meetings are going on. What generally happens and is supposed to happen in communities is at the beginning of the year or at the end of the calendar year, they're supposed to put out a schedule of meetings. And you should have access to that schedule of meetings via website, via postings at your local, where the meetings are held, and other locations throughout the community, and in some cases via the local newsletter. So you should know exactly when the meetings are being held. Now, here's the challenge, and here's the problem with that. The problem is that the postings for the meetings are only required to be done 48 hours prior to the meeting. So if the meeting is on a Monday, they can post it on a Saturday in the evening. You know, if it's Monday night, if Monday night is 7, they can post it on Saturday at 7. Nobody's going to see it because nobody's going to be coming into the meeting location on the weekend and on Sunday to see it. And most people are at work on Monday. So if the meeting's at 7 o'clock, they have a difficult time trying to attend to the meeting. Secondly, you have mayors that will change the meeting at the last minute, cancel the meeting without any prior notice, change the meeting to a different date, post it erroneously on a day that nobody would be looking for it, and then have a meeting and nobody knows what's going on. So to your point, the issue is proper notification to make sure that everybody knows when to meet, and then hold the meetings the days that they're supposed to be held. Even if you don't have a quorum, if you're the only person there, if you're the mayor or a member of the board, have the meeting, tell everybody that, hey, listen, we don't have enough people here today to conduct business. Answer questions for the people when they come in there because they're there for questioning. The meeting is actually for them. It's not for the board. Those public meetings are exactly that, public meetings held in the sunshine, in front of everybody, in front of the world, and on video, on tape, or whatever the case may be, for the public. The meetings are for the public to know what their government is doing, what their elected officials are doing. And here's the problem with that. I've been in meetings where there's nobody in the meeting but the board members. The residents don't show up in the Black communities. In the minority communities, we don't show up unless it's a major issue that's directly impacting me in front of my front door. So if it's not landing in my front yard, I'm not out there. And like I said, the meetings will go on, and there will be nobody in attendance, or 2 or 3 people that are at all the meetings that are in attendance. And those are the only people that know what's going on in town. And then when you go to other communities, the room is packed every meeting.
That's right.
When the people don't look like us, the meeting room is packed. Questions are asked.
Yes.
There are healthy discussions about different things, and people get both sides of the story, the left side, the right side, and the middle, and then you can make an educated guess and make a best decision. When you don't come to the meeting, you're left with the decision of the people that are sitting on the board, or the mayor, or whoever it may be. And then when something happens, then you're up in arms. And I'll give you a perfect example. In Broadview, when I was in office, and I'm going to get off of my soapbox in just a second, but I got to tell you this quick story.
Go right ahead.
I got to tell you this quick story. We posted notice to all the people in a particular area of town, and also to the people on the border, just the opposite side in the Maywood area. We posted notice to have a meeting about traffic in the school area. So we had a grammar school in the area, and we had cars that were driving, running stop signs, driving crazy. And we had gang affiliations on the school grounds, and graffiti on the building. And my proposal was to cul-de-sac the whole area off. Told everybody about it. Told them when the meeting was. 3 people showed up. We put out 500 notices. 3 people showed up. Once the cul-de-sacs hit, everybody was up in arms. I had people calling the mayor's office in Maywood. I had people call the state senator's office, the state rep's office, and everybody was up in arms. But it's too late now. You guys had an opportunity to have your say so and say whatever you wanted to say. The good thing is these particular cul-de-sacs worked out. It cleaned up a lot of the problems over there. The crime rate dropped. Matter of fact, it was the highest crime rated area in town before the cul-de-sacs. It is now recognized as the lowest crime rated area in town. So it was a good thing. But the point is they didn't show up for the meeting. They didn't have a voice. And now they're stuck with whatever they're stuck with. And it could have been a bad thing, but it worked out.
Now, why is that? You know, I've been around politics for a long time, and I've walked door to door and talked to people. They want to complain, but they don't want to show up. They want to complain. That's all. It's only in the African American neighborhoods, because if you go out to Neighborville and all that, they're gonna show up to their meetings and they're gonna make it a point. Just like we was talking about gambling. You know, my super producer said, "Well, how do you get a gambling, thing like in a neighborhood like Broadview? What is the process with that?"
So in the local municipalities, you have to create legislation to create areas where it's allowed. So those gambling casinos cannot be put next to schools. They won't be put next door to churches or things like that. There's got to have a certain amount of distance between them. You also can put a number on how many can be in your municipality. The state law will give out the licenses based on whatever their criteria is. And I don't know what the criteria is today, but they'll give out the licenses based on their criteria. And the only restrictions that they really have is that a single owner may not own more than one within a certain amount of territory. You can have one next to another one, but it can't be the same operator. It must be 2 different operators. The business that the machines are in cannot be adjacent to another business where the same owner and the same business are operating, because that ultimately becomes a casino. But my thing and was mentioned before we started talking tonight about they just popping up everywhere. My position before I got out of office is that we should create districts. We should create specific geographical areas where these casinos could be, or these gaming centers could be. That way they're not at every other block and you don't just see them popping up. If you want to go to the video gaming casino or go play a video game, you go into this area or to that area of town, and that's it. Away from the neighborhoods, away from the schools. on a public drag, along Roosevelt Road, along 17th, on Madison Avenue in Maywood, or on Roosevelt Road in Maywood, or wherever you decided to be. But to have them on 4, 5, 6 different blocks is not a good thing. The other thing is, there's one thing that really is critical about them, is that in order for you to get those licenses, you must have a liquor license.
Hmm?
So the liquor license is attached to the gambling license, to the casino license. So, right, for 21 and over. And it was designed for 21 and over. It was designed to keep kids, 14, 15, and 16 away from the video gaming, I'm sure. So anywhere that you see these games, these 6 machines, and I think they've increased the number of machines just recently that can be at a specific location, they will normally be in restaurants or bars where there is liquor, or they'll be in parlors where liquor is served or is available, and there will be a liquor license present and should be posted for public consumption. So the casinos and the liquor go together. So, yeah, just a tidbit, just a
See,
note.
I didn't even realize that.
No, I
until
did
you
not.
Just a
said it.
note.
That was
Yeah.
just, oh, wow. Callers
Yeah.
to call in. We got a couple more minutes. 708-223-8953. 708-223-8953. Any questions? And,
It sounds like there's something
you want
behind
to
that.
ask one person on the panel?
Sounds
We
like
have
if you're inebriated, then
we
you're gonna
have
spend more
Dr.
money.
Binion as our guest. We have former
Pretty
Mayor
much right.
Sherman Jones in the house today. So, and I did not even know that.
Plus it restricts the people that can actually apply for it.
Right.
Because if you don't have a liquor license, you can't get it.
You can't get it.
You can't get it.
And you have to jump through all kind of hoops to get the liquor
and
license.
and then you had to go to the municipality, and you
That's
have to
right.
plead with the liquor commissioner and the mayor and the village board that this is a good thing and we need a liquor license, and so on and so forth. But yeah,
Mhm.
so if you ever go, you'll find out that any one of them that you go to, they serve liquor,
I've never been to one.
even
I
if it's
didn't
just
know.
a beer and wine. But there would be liquor available.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's good to know. But I did want to just kind of backtrack a minute.
Mhm.
I have gone to some of the township meetings, and I just wanted to share that sometimes they've already decided what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And anybody that speaks against what they say, they mute you.
They cut you off.
They cut you off and don't let you speak. And that has happened a lot of times. And it happens in our neighborhoods to turn people off, to not even want to come to those meetings. I've watched them do that. I have watched them cut people off, not allow them to speak because it was against what they wanted to do. Only in our neighborhoods. You can't go to Naperville and do that.
Mm-mm.
No, you can't. And when I was speaking about Bellwood last week, and I was speaking on the $2,000 increase in everybody's taxes, $2,000 at least. And they're not even making sure that these people have their tax exemptions like they're supposed, their senior freezes and stuff. And that's why one thing that the tax doctor didn't say, we need one formula for the assessors throughout the whole state, instead of them making their own formulas as they go and getting the monies, whatever they feel that they want to do for that month and what they want, or that year, what they want to get out of the homeowners. We talked about that last, with some of these, they're getting all of this funding, and it's for them to go to conferences, and they having liquor license, and they doing all kind of stuff at these conferences because they're just mini vacations. Not everybody, nothing is absolute, but these are some of the things that's happening at the expense of the taxpayers.
Told y'all the show was gonna be deep. Did I say that? I told you it was gonna be deep. Okay, so Dr. Penny, you last week you were supposed to give us the
I did, and
information.
I do not have it, but they can call CETA. Just
Okay.
call CETA. Just call, Google CETA.
Okay, so why are they calling CETA? Can you
They're
explain to
calling
them?
CETA to find out, and they're going to direct them to whereas they can get rental assistance because it's ending.
Okay.
And they can also get help with their lights and gas and phone. And some of them, they'll help with their water bills.
Okay, and that's CETA.
Call CETA.
Okay.
You got a
and-
number for CETA?
No, I don't have it.
Okay.
Do you have it? I can
No,
Google. Let me
no,
Google it right now.
I was just thinking about
You're
it,
right. Let me Google it right
the people
now.
may need to know the number
That's
and,
all
and the
right.
correct spelling, because if I'm not mistaken, it's CEDA.
It's CEDA.
But people in our community may not even know. CEDA's been around a long time, and they've done quite a few things for minority communities and minority individuals. So
Yeah, and it's not letting me.
yeah,
The internet is not letting me do it.
Let me go ahead on mine.
Can you get it?
Most likely.
And I had put everything aside and walked right out the door and left it.
it
And
happens.
the reason why I wanted to get a number out because somebody might not know how to spell CEDA.
CEDA,
I know.
and that's okay. But it won't let me do anything on my phone. Can you get it? Or if they have wherever their townships are at,
Okay, so
Yeah.
they can call their
You should be able
townships,
to get your time.
and their townships will direct them and connect. They can go in and they'll help them in regards to the
Right.
paperwork.
And then what I just pulled up here, they can go to www.ceda, and it has the website. And on the website, it has a platform. It says water bill, electric
I'm telling
bill.
you.
It says rent assistance.
That's it. It's all
It
there.
says it
CEDA.
right on the website. So, ladies and gentlemen, you can go to CETA and try to see if you can get your bills paid. And it also has how to qualify,
That's right.
for the program. So we do appreciate you for listening. Our time is running out, but I'm here every Tuesday from my perspective. And again, I want to thank my special honorary guest of the former, I call him Mayor Jones, Sherman Jones, that was
Awesome.
here. And he came, and you guys, of course, know my wonderful co-host, and I'm just gonna bring her back next one. Because we had some great conversation, don't we,
really
Dr.
do.
Binion?
Yes, we do.
Okay, Dr. Bean, some who you are, you got to say your name and stuff.
My name is Dr. Felice Binion. I am the CEO and president of the Westside Ministers Coalition. We have a meeting every first Thursday of the month. Our website or our email address is Westside Ministers with the S Coalition at gmail.com. Please, if you want to, if you can just send us a note, we will make sure that we give you our Zoom information for our monthly meetings because we change it every month. Once again, it's Westside Ministers with an S Coalition at gmail.com.
And of course, she's my partner, my sister.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because that's how we roll. Any more last comments, Mayor Jones?
So much good information
I don't
today.
have any comments. It's been a pleasure sitting here with you two ladies. It's some of the stuff's kind of quite enlightening. It's but it's been a pleasure. And anytime you need me, Miss Princess.
All right, well, we don't want you back because you got some great information,
Yes,
don't you?
awesome stuff.
All
to
right,
share with
thank
us
you, Super
today.
Producer. Go ahead and take us out. Thank you,
Awesome.
everybody, and see
Thank
you
you.
next week.
Absolutely. Awesome.